Good day, friends. Welcome to the sixth episode of our Kaya study series for Life and Light. Today we begin where we ended last week. The fact that we as humans are all created in the image of God, both male and female. And as I have said, the humans are the only creatures among the so many created by God to bear this very special character as a creature bearing the image of the Creator. I really give special emphasis to this central biblical truth because this is what is supposed to be the most basic controlling and governing principle in the reading and interpretation of the task and mission given by God to the human being in relation to the rest of creation. As noted in verse 28, the Lord blessed the human being, and then the human being was given the task to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, which should be no problem in those days when the earth does not yet have any exploding population problem at the time, and they should be having fun multiplying and filling the earth with their own species. But then the two tasks given by God appear to be quite so distinct and loaded with inherent power in itself. The human is also called to subdue the earth, in the Hebrew, kabash, and have dominion, rada, over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the air and over every living thing that moves upon the earth. One thing we can notice in this text is that these two terms, to subdue and to have dominion, are not to be understood as subjugation or domination or as a license to do whatever we please and desire, to do whatever we see as desirable and even profitable on this planet Earth. It is not an encompassing logging or mining or drilling permit anywhere we want and however we want it. You will notice that the task to have dominion is intended only to be practiced over the animals, the fish, the birds of the air, and every living thing that moves upon the earth. It is power and responsibility to rule to be exercised over the animals, but not to the point that they will be eliminated from the face of the earth and make various species extinct. No, to subdue the earth could only point to what happens when we already have multiplied enough and have filled the earth with various communities, as if saying that we humans have practically covered the earth. Nothing is said about being able to exploit to the hilt the resources of Mother Earth. Nothing is said about destroying sanctuaries of precious species of animals and fish and even birds. Nothing is said about leveling mountains in order to extract their precious minerals. Nothing is said about transforming forests into bare and barren lands that could eventually become deserts just to harvest the precious timber wood from various high-class, high-grade trees. Nothing at all is said about our industrial and commercial activities becoming sources of pollution in our air, in our seas, rivers, lakes, and even the soil. and groundwater. But the thing is, all these activities have been mostly justified, legitimized by well-meaning Bible-reading investors as an expression of our being stewards of God, that we are only responding to the divine mandate to subdue and have dominion over the face of the earth. So, this text then has become one of the most misunderstood, misinterpreted, and abused texts to adopt to our own selfish business interests and to soothe whatever growing guilt feelings some of them may be having already. The problem is we are usually reading and interpreting this text in isolation as just one verse that is supposed to justify it all as our own kind of obedience to God. First of all, we should never forget the fact that this world, this whole earth, which we now have and have become our own home, our only home, is in fact not our own. It is God's own world. It is a world created, governed, sustained, and blessed by God, the Creator. God is still the absolute owner of this world. We cannot act as if we are already taking over the ownership or taking possession and control of the resources and potentialities of this earth. We cannot act as if we are in full control. No. We can only act as trusted, mandated, accountable, and responsible stewards of the real owner of this whole planet. We cannot assume we have all the rights to do whatever we want to do with it in whatever part or resource of this Mother Earth. We need to assume a little more attitude of humility in respect to relating with our Creator and with our Mother Earth. Second, the only way we can understand better and more concretely this mandate from our God to be stewards of His own creation is to look at what we said earlier as the governing, controlling principle that should guide us more authoritatively in understanding and obeying this mandate from our Creator. What is this governing principle? We said it is the fact that we humans have been created in the image of our Creator. This is the decisive and controlling principle in interpreting our task as stewards of God's creation. What does this mean? It means we are to reflect like a mirror the very presence and character of our Creator before the rest of His creation. We are then to relate and act on our environment, our world, and the whole Mother Earth, the way God is acting on it. That is with care, with graciousness, and sustaining love. That is, we are to carry out our tasks for our world, for our environment, the way God would do it, to preserve, enrich, and further enhance His creation. Yes, we ought to be mirrors of God's caring, loving, and sustaining presence before the rest of the world, even as God knows our needs to be sustained with food and resources coming from Mother Earth. God knows what we need. Even as we make responsible use of each and every resource of the earth for our sustenance, we do it always with the same commitment as that of God's for its preservation and enhancement. We care for our world in the same way that God cares for it. So we protect our environment from any further destruction, disturbance, and dislocation wrought by irresponsible property, industrial and commercial developers, the way God would want it to be protected from any such form of destruction. In the face of the growing crisis of environmental deterioration, together with worsening climate change, with unpredictable weather patterns these days, with accompanying deadly super typhoons, massive floods, landslides, while other parts of the world are suffering from equally deadly extreme summer heat and the drying up of many bodies of water all over the world, we need to take more seriously the call and mandate of our Creator for us to be truly responsible and passionate stewards and defenders of the Lord's creation. Let it begin even in various small ways. There is now this long encouraged campaign to recycle, reuse, reduce, and restore whatever we can for the sake of lessening the load on our Mother Earth. The campaign for the preservation of various watersheds to protect our water sources through the protection of our forests and also doing our share in planting trees wherever we can and then lessening our demand and use of those highly environmentally toxic plastic containers and bags. And then, of course, exposing and campaigning against all those who have been destroying our forests, polluting our seas, poisoning our waters, and leveling off our mountains, simply all for the sake of profit and economic gain. All this have to be resisted with our organized voices. It is time to take our role as stewards of our environment more seriously than ever before. For in the survival of Mother Earth lies also our own survival as the creature created in God's own image. Let not that image be disfigured by our own covenant forgetfulness and irresponsibility, by our own pride and covetousness, and by our own desire to live life on our own terms and not as someone accountable to our Creator God. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Next week, we will finish our discussion of Genesis 1 by focusing our reflections on the remaining themes of Sabbath and the goodness and the blessedness of God's creation. Please read Genesis 1, verse 31 up to chapter 2, verse 3. Thank you. God bless.